Are men and women really different? I want to react to this controversy of the former Google employee who was fired because he expressed his opinions about company diversity policy and suggested what should be changed. So, are men and women really different? Is it sexist to even ask this question? Or is it only sexist if you're male? I want to share with you what I recently learned on a company leadership training. What I noticed at once was that it was tailored specifically for women. Later I learned that this training was a part of the series of events called Women in Technology, so it was natural that it was tailored for women. At the moment I didn't know it, and it was curious that women were given preference in enrolling in the training. As the result, 3/4 of the participants were women. The coach was a woman. All the materials and books referenced were written and created by women. Even the training stickers and handouts were styled in pinkish colors. Among other things, what the presenter on the training shared was this. According to modern research, there are distinct psychological traits associated with two major genders. For example, men consider themselves ready to take a job if they feel they fit just 60% of the requirements, so they go and apply for the job. Women tend to apply only when they feel that they satisfy all 100% of the requirements. It is curious that my wife has been telling me this for years now, how important it is for her that everything is perfect, that she is sure she will shine. And she always ridiculed my ability to start and do something that I barely knew how to do. One more thing. Men readily and eagerly negotiate. They explicitly ask for promotion, for training, for salary increase. They negotiate when getting a new job offer. Women report that negotiating is one of the most unpleasant and undesirable things to do. And they report that they almost never negotiate for anything. Not even the smallest things, like getting a discount in a shop where they are buying a bunch of things at once. Interestingly, the female audience of my training was nodding in agreement and shared their own stories how they hated to negotiate and actually never did it. A big part of the training was to convince women in the class to negotiate and not to wait for their boss to guess that they would want a promotion. My family life also corroborates on this. I always get to negotiate for everything, from the insurance claims to resolving situations at our kids' schools. My wife gets infuriated if I even try to suggest that she might be able to take care of a negotiation issue. I would love this to be different. I'd be happy to be relieved of the parts of the negotiations to do. But it's the way it is in my family. And after that training, I started to sympathize with my wife much more. The comprehension of the fact that our minds do work differently helped me find peace and ease with this particular issue. During the training, the coach was stressing how different the psychology of women and men was. Now, here are some interesting questions. Was that coach being sexist? Or was it a part of an affirmative action, a part of helping women overcome their special barriers that stand in the way of implementing their full potential and achieving more in their business life? Was organizing that training a sexist thing to do? Or was the way the enrollment was carried out a discrimination against men in favor of women? I personally think that my training was the right thing to do. And considering the fact that it was designed with women in mind, it makes sense to give women preferential treatment when enrolling in that particular training. It was a part of caring that people are more fulfilled in general. However, if you think about the purely commercial side of things, it is unclear whether it was the most efficient thing to do. Maybe it is more beneficial for business to create a completely gender-blind and color-blind environment and let the employees express themselves in a dynamic environment of full equality. Because if you think about it deeply and seriously, there can be no affirmative action towards one group without artificially restricting opportunities for another group. You must start to generalize and discriminate people on the basis of gender and other group identifiers. You either raise the bar higher for the members of the traditionally successful group, or you lower the bar for the members of the traditionally less successful group. For example, if you know the psychological fact that women are averse to negotiations, you might want to encourage your managers to start asking female employees, by the way, do you want a promotion? Do you want a raise? But not ask men the same questions. Because statistically, men are more likely to ask that on their own and eventually crowd out women in the promotion line. There are no easy answers here, and there are several potential problems with this approach. Humans are individuals, and the variation within groups is often higher than the median difference between groups. This means that you will omit some men who are shy introverts, who also potentially want promotion and would bring much value to your organization, but never ask for it. Also, this means that you would end up promoting some women who actually did not want promotion and did not really feel ready, but your question tipped the scale. It challenged them and nudged them to say yes when they would probably be more productive and happy without the additional responsibilities and stress that accompanies any promotion. And you would omit and potentially lose ambitious and capable male employees who would be a perfect fit for the elevated role. But your affirmative action toward women deprived these males of the opportunities even after they explicitly asked for professional growth. Generally, I sympathize with the desire to create comfortable environment for everyone and to help people overcome their fears and aversions. But one thing is certain, there should be honesty, there should be openness, and there should not be witch hunts against those who discuss facts and express divergent opinions, like that guy in Google who was fired for voicing his concerns about the inherent need to discriminate in any affirmative action initiative. Reading a book on psychology, I just found out more interesting facts. On average, men, when completing questionnaires about their career prospects, subconsciously emphasize different things, depending on whether there are women in the room with them or not. In the presence of women filling the same questionnaires, men emphasize things like the accumulation of wealth significantly more compared to filling the same questionnaires in male-only groups. None of the respondents had the slightest idea that they were changing the way they were planning important events in their lives based on irrelevant primordial psychological responses carved out in our subconscious minds by millions of years of evolution. Another psychological experiment showed that men have a very different level of tolerance to delaying monetary remuneration depending on if they had been shown a photo of an attractive woman or not. Men who had not been shown the photos were much more likely to get $150 in a year rather than $100 today, and vice versa. Men who had just seen an attractive woman on a photo were more likely to demand $100 today rather than accept $150 in the future. All this was also completely unconscious, completely unnoticed by the respondents, and it was revealed only when the results of the two groups were compared. I have two questions. First, is it reasonable to expect that women also have very specific responses, very different from those of men? Do women place emphasis on different things than men? For example, not accumulating of wealth, but something very different. Does this have impact on how people behave and how people do their work? Second, is it reasonable to expect that men and women should have exactly the same behavior, preferences, and performance at workplace at all times? There are two contradictory statements about diversity and affirmative action. First, that all the groups of people, being it gender or racial, are completely equal in all their traits, preferences, and dispositions. Second, that diversity brings value to the business. If the first is true, then the second is false, and vice versa. That is, if men and women are completely the same in everything related to work, then it doesn't matter if you have a fully male team or a fully female team or mixed. The same goes with races and with any other way of grouping people. On the other hand, if it's true that diversity indeed is beneficial for business, then it means that different people complement each other, and they, by definition, are different and should not be expected to be represented in equal proportions in all roles, in all businesses. It seems that providing equal opportunities for all people is the key. Providing gender-blind and color-blind interviews when hiring is a good practice, which was demonstrated by selecting musicians for orchestras. But that's it. Favoring individuals in the workplace based on their sex or race identity amounts to unfair discrimination, and in my opinion, it hurts the business. Purely from business perspective, quotas are harmful. Every person must be addressed as individual, not as a male, female, or having a certain skin color or facial features.